get ready with me whilst I tell you some really funny but traumatic experiences I had when I was at school and being a social media girl. Starting off, I think this is one that a lot of people always get shocked about because they're like, no way people asked you this. But teachers used to always ask me like, oh, how much do you earn a year? And like all these really, really personal questions about like my money. And like I just always used to think I would never ask a teacher how much they earn, so why are they asking me? A lot of people always expected, like because I had a following on social media, that a lot of people wanted to be my friend. But I'd say it was the complete opposite. People was kind of like, I don't even know what it was, but people was just so weird with me and like just was rude all the time. Be like, oh, she's a TikTok girl, like she's so prestige. But none of them would even speak to me. Like I made some really good friends in younger years and my years, but everyone else just had such an opinion when they didn't know me, which is one thing I find with social media, and a lot of my friends had the same issues growing up on social media. It's really annoying. I think one of the most funny, memorable things is the rumours people used to make about me, which was so far from the truth. And it used to literally make me giggle so much because I'd be like, that's just not true. Like, basically, some girls was throwing balls at the back of my head in PE. And I felt really dizzy, so I went to the medical woman, and then they made me, like, tell them what happened. Because I was like, I don't really care, but I had to tell medical what happened. And then medical told pastoral, which is, like, the people that, like, try to sort out problems. And I remember I was like, oh, this is just going to get me so much more problems. And then the whole of year 8 and 9, I had a rumour going around that apparently my parents paid the school to get me out of trouble. And my dog's sneezing like mad. Are you okay? But no, like, there was seriously a rumour going around that my parents owned part of the school. My parents paid the teachers not to get me in trouble. But in reality, they was all the ones that was being naughty and not me. That's why I just never got in trouble, because I was just the blooming victim of it all. But yeah, that was a very good rumour that went around. Everyone literally told everyone that my mum paid the school to get me out of trouble. Another thing was I was called Snobson because my last name's not actually Charlize, it's Hobson. And my whole school life I was called Amelie Snobson because apparently I was a snob. In year 7 I had a red bag, so in year 7 most of the people used to call me Red Bag Girl because no one knew my name. If I ever had hate from anyone from school, like being horrible to me, and the school found out about it, the school would tell me to quit social media because that's the reason that I get hate. But, like, there would be kids that done dancing in my school that would get hate because they was, like, good at dancing. But they never got told to quit what they was passionate in doing. It was just because I done something different. If you want a part 2, let me know. I've got so much more.
It's clear that I'm not white, but my dad's white, so he's gotten into a lot of trouble for having a black daughter. This is him. My dad was the custodian at my middle school, and not all the teachers knew that. My dad and I decided that we were gonna go on a late night walk because we wanted to go to the convenience store, and it so happens that the teachers at my school were having some sort of staff dinner in the same plaza. My dad and I go to the convenience store, and we come out, and I guess the teachers are leaving now. We're walking back home, and we see like a car slow down beside us, and then it like turns all the way over because we're still in the parking lot and like they're on the road. So he drives past us slowly and we make eye contact, and then he like zooms off, but the shock on his face was like, we were like, that was weird, but like whatever. I know for a fact this man went home and couldn't sleep at night thinking, oh my gosh, one of my students is out late at night with the custodian. The next day was a school day and my dad gets called into the office. Right away the principal said like a teacher came to him and they're extremely worried about Destiny, and my dad knew right away what teacher it was and why they were worried. Luckily the teacher knew my dad, so it wasn't really a big deal. They kind of laughed about it, but this has happened to my dad so much, like in real life, people stopping him and being like, whoa.
Get ready with me. I'm gonna tell you guys a story time from like 3rd grade. I just woke up from a nap. Also, this felt like straight oil on my face, and I did shake it. People are like, oh, it's because you didn't shake it. I shook it. I'm gonna really shake it today. We're really gonna shake it. Okay, I really hope, I don't know if I said this, but I hope they don't like find this video, because so me and this girl, we always like joked around that we would sneak on each other's butts and go home with each other, because I don't know, we thought it was funny. So it was like a normal day. It still feels oily, guys. It was like any other day, and I was like, are you gonna sneak on my bus today? And she's like, yeah. So we get to the entrance of the bus, and she, like, steps on, and I'm like, what are you doing? And she's like, I'm getting on the bus, so I'm going home with you. And I was like, oh, yeah. So she gets on the bus. Oh, I can't forget Toner, I always do. She gets on the bus, and then we walk to the seat. And so, in my school, the bus driver had to, like, check, like, you had to have, like, a sticky note from your teacher saying that this person was going home with you, because the bus drivers, like, knew who was on their bus. So he was like, where's your sticky note? But then someone came behind us and, like, said something, and it distracted him, and we just, like, ran to a seat. I just realized how slow I was telling this story. I'm sorry. I had to, like, think, because this happened a long time ago, and I haven't, like, told the story. So anyway, we're on the seat, and I was like, I didn't say anything. I was trying to be, like, cool, you know. But I was like, I was waiting for her to get off. I was like, she's getting off, right? Well, she didn't get off, and the doors closed, and I was like, the door's shut. And then she started freaking out, too. I don't know. I don't know what she was thinking. Maybe she thought she was going to, like, sit down and then get off. But she sat down, the door's shut, she starts freaking out, I start freaking out, the bus starts moving. I don't really remember what happened, like, while we were on the bus, except I just know I was kind of panicking a little bit. So we get to my stop. We get off. I get in the back seat. My mom does not even realize that she's there. My mom had no clue she was there, and it was so funny. Then, like, once I get in the car, my mom looks in, like, her mirror, like, to see me, and she sees her. And she's like, what are you doing here? And she's like, I got on her bus, and, like, the door shut, and then they started moving, and, like, we didn't know what to do. So my mom's like, this is not a good idea. I have to call your mom. So she calls her mom to come get her, because her mom was going to start panicking if her child didn't get off the bus. So she calls her mom. Her mom was kind of panicking already. I have 20 seconds. Anyways, she gets to my house. Instead of playing, we were forced to do our homework as a consequence. And they decided not to tell the school, because if they told the school, we'd probably be banned from riding the buses. But we were in big trouble. Don't do this. I was literally in 3rd grade. Anyways, that's it. Bye.
Okay, it's time for another creepy story time. My parents had me in their early 20s and ended up getting divorced when I was less than a year old. I often spent the night at my grandma's house on my mum's side, since my mum didn't have much money at the time. I don't remember this happening, but my mother and grandmother tell me the story like it was yesterday. When I was really little, I would come out of my room and tell everyone that there was a lady that stood over my crib at night and watched me sleep. Since I was so little, everyone thought I was just making up stories and it was my imagination or I was just dreaming. This continued on for months, and one day my mum and grandma were looking through a photo book, and as they were just flipping through the pages, she lands on a photo of my dad's mum, my other grandma, and I pointed right to her and said, "That's the lady that stands over my crib at night." I had never met her, and she died years before I was born.
I saw a video of a girl asking if you've ever had a friend that just hated you, and I thought this was my time to shine. So I went through a lot of different, like, friend groups and best friends and stuff throughout my whole life, but I had one friend that I had for 7 years and one friend that I had for 4. And the friend I had for 7 years I started becoming friends with this other girl in high school, and I just introduced the 2 of them together, so then all 3 of us became a trio. And one weird thing about my school was that we didn't have, like, people weren't just, like, friends with just one other person. Like, there weren't a whole lot of that. It was a lot of big groups. So even though we weren't popular, everybody, like, knew of us because we were that weird group that, like, the weird trio. Like, I'm telling you, even teachers knew not to separate us because we were going to, like, back together. So fast forward to senior prom, we're going to call them Rachel and Ashley. Rachel and Ashley went to Ashley's house and decided that they were going to get ready together, and I got ready at my house. Now, this made sense because Ashley lived pretty far out, and I had a hair appointment in the middle of the day, so it didn't really make sense to drive all the way out there, drive back into town, drive back out there. I just got ready at my house. And if you've seen my prom pictures, you know I did Lady Gaga's Met Gala look for prom. Skipping blush and highlight because I'm doing that in a different video. So I finished my makeup, and I text a picture of it to Rachel. And she's like, "Oh, you need to take that off. You cannot wear that. That is embarrassing. Like, we do not want to be seen with that." And I'm just like, no, like, I spent 2 hours on it. I did not have time to take it off. I was like, no. And she was like, okay, well, then we're not going to come get you. Now, my parents had my car because one of their cars was in the shop. And I was like, you have to come get me or I can't get there. So begrudgingly, they come to my house and they pick me up. And then we meet all of our parents to go do pictures. Now, when we get there, they take one picture with me. Also, no, the whole drive over, they did not talk to me or acknowledge me. So they take one picture with me, then I get sprayed by a sprinkler and I get soaked. So now I'm crying. They do not care. They have better things to do. And then at this point, the parents are finding this weird because I'm being like completely overlooked and that's never happened before. At least that they've seen. So all the parents are like, are you okay? What's going on? I'm like, I'm fine. Don't worry about it. Everything's fine. So we finish pictures and say farewell to our parents. So then we go to dinner. It's the most awkward thing ever. No one talks to me. So I'm just like, okay, when I get to prom, I'll find other people. At prom, some other girls hang out with us, so it's fine. It doesn't feel too awkward. Then when we get in the car to leave, Ashley looks at Rachel and is like, hey, do you want to spend the night at my house? And Rachel's like, yeah, I'd love to. So Ashley goes, great. We'll drop Allie off and then we will go to my house. And that's exactly what happened.
Ready with me while I tell you a really crazy story that happened to me yesterday. I was really craving sushi, but my normal place wasn't open, so I was like, okay, no problem. I'll go to DoorDash. So one of the first places listed is this new sushi place I've never seen in the next town over, but I'm like, okay, cool, let me try somewhere new. So I order, 30 minutes later, it arrives at my house. I'm like, yes, so excited to eat, or so I thought. I open up the bag to see a handwritten note. I'm like, what is this? You can pause to read, but here's the note. Basically, the note says, I'm so sorry, this was made with absolutely no training, and to please feel free to call DoorDash for a refund. So I'm like, wait, what? I'm really not a picky person, so I open up the sushi and it literally looks like a truck like ran it over. I'm like, okay, this is probably not safe to eat. I don't know what happened here. Anyways, I Google the name of this place and absolutely nothing comes up, like no trace of this place. It is not a real restaurant. I go back to the DoorDash app to find what address they have listed on DoorDash. I get the address and I Google it and it comes up as my local TGI Fridays. Basically, after a little bit of research, come to find out TGI Fridays is opening what they're calling ghost kitchens. Basically, they market themselves not as TGI Fridays, but as like a sushi restaurant or whatever type of restaurant on these delivery apps. And then you order from them thinking you're getting it from like a real sushi place, but it's actually coming from a TGI Fridays. Apparently a ton of other restaurants do this too as well. So it's a little weird that you don't really know where you're ordering from. Let me know what you guys think about this. And if you've ever ordered from a ghost kitchen, have you ever even heard of this before? Double check where you're actually ordering from next time you order from a delivery service.
When I was 13, I made the worst decision of my life. It traumatized me so much. I'm now 19 and I regret it every day. I decided to move away from my family to a completely different city 2 hours away and live in an apartment with two girls I barely knew, one of them I had never met, to pursue gymnastics more seriously. The way this worked is Monday through Friday we had gymnastics and we would do like school upstairs online, and then every night a different parent would come stay with us in our one-bedroom apartment, and then at the end of the week on Friday we would all go back home and then drive back up to the apartment Sunday night. So I would see my mom like once or twice a week, and then some of Friday, all of Saturday, and some of Sunday. Why she let me do this, I have no idea. Also, all three of us were about the same age and I was in 8th grade. The only good thing that came out of this is I met one of my best friends who was the girl I didn't know. The gym environment ended up being absolutely traumatizing and we were all being abused. Things went south pretty quick. We were all crying multiple times a day. We would cry before practice, we would cry at night anticipating practice, we'd cry after practice, and our parents were like, you made this decision, like you gotta stick to it, but I don't think they knew how bad it was. We all started to experience panic attacks and we just wanted to be home. I absolutely hated like every second there, and I'm pretty sure they did too. I have so many stories of just whack, horrible things that happened there. But like I said, there was one good thing that came out of it, and that was meeting my best friend, and she was the girl that I didn't know when I first moved in. We became inseparable like super quick. We did everything together, and when we weren't at practice or worrying about practice, we were like laughing. The whole time we were supposed to be doing school, we would be laughing. Like I never laughed harder than I did with that girl. We would have movie nights like all the time, and since we were all staying in the same bedroom, we ended up making a fort underneath our beds because they were all touching, and we'd watch movies under there. My best friend ended up bringing her cat, and we also had a hamster. That hamster is a story for a different time, but we had so much fun having like the cat there. We were definitely all trauma bonded because we went through so much together. I still talk to the girl I was best friends with. I actually FaceTimed her the other night, and she's my best friend I've ever had in my entire life. I wish I could have met my bestie in a different way because the damage was so not worth it. This entire thing lasted over a year, so let me know if you want more stories from this time in my life because I have so many.
Story time on how I got stuck on the water slide on the cruise. Go on this water slide, you have to weigh a bare minimum of 120 pounds. First day that I tried to go on the water slide, he weighed me and I only weighed 119.6 pounds. And he told me to go eat a sandwich and come back and I could try again. And I literally went and ate a sandwich and tried again, except for I still did not make the requirement. Next day, as I was walking past the water slide, I asked if I could try again, and for some reason, I magically hit 120 pounds. It was one of those water slides where the floor drops out from underneath you and you just free fall. I go on the slide and I have just enough weight to make it to the top ridge of the first loop, but I have to scoot my butt over it to make it down. On the second loop, I did not make it. I didn't have enough weight, so I went up and then I went down backwards. But when I went backwards, I went right past the door. So I was under the assumption that I got stuck in the only part of the water slide where there was no escape. I start panicking. I sit up in the tube. It's humid. It's hard to breathe in there. Water's rushing. Water's in my contacts. I'm trying to see. I realize that I'm in the clear part of the tube. So I look down. I'm on the part of the tube that hangs off the ship. Hundreds of feet down below is the ocean. And I'm like, don't look that way. So I look up at the guy who sent me down and I'm like, hey, I like clear the fog off the tube and I'm like, bang, and I'm like, how do I get out of here? I'm freaking out because in front of me is an upward hike on the water slide. I'm in a loop, okay, and I'm at the bottom of the loop. In my mind, it's up and up. I don't know how I'm supposed to get out. Well, he's pointing this way. He's like, go that way. So I moved this way into the water slide, which is like pitch black because it was dark and covered. And that is when I found the escape door. And the guy opened it up and he let me out. Gets me out and he was like, are you okay? And I literally look at him and I was like, that was not fun. And then I just left. And I'm a little bit of an adrenaline junkie, but that was horrifying.
Get ready with me while I tell you guys about how I accidentally snitched on my sister in high school for sneaking out. So she was in 12th grade and I was in 9th grade, but I probably had the maturity level of like a 5th grader and the knowledge of a 5th grader. To put things in perspective, at this time I was sleeping with my little brother because we would stay up all night and play Minecraft. Very like well under what I should have been at my age. So one night, me and my little brother finished our Minecraft Chronicles. And I believe I fell asleep for a little bit, but then I noticed my sister's light was on, so I was like, I'm gonna go be nice and turn that off for her. Also, if you can hear like some weird sounds, the people above us, I believe, are doing their laundry, and it is so loud, and it's been doing this for like an hour, so I was like, I'm filming my Get Ready With Me. So I went to turn her TV off, and I noticed there was like blankets covering her, like on her bed, and I was like, oh my gosh, like she's not gonna be able to breathe, and when I tell you this is literally my 9th grade thoughts. So when I pulled the blanket back to help her breathe better, I saw these pillows like in position that looked like a human. And this is gonna sound so dramatic. After I did that, I noticed her curtain was like blowing and it's nighttime, so everything was like more dramatic to me. So in my head, I'm like, oh my gosh, somebody like kidnapped my sister, left her TV, her light on, made it look like there was somebody still sleeping in her bed so that they could get away with this. So I'm already freaking out, like already on the verge of tears, and I'm like, I have to go like run to my parents' room and tell them that Sarah's kidnapped. And how naive I was at the time definitely kept me from understanding the situation, obviously. So I go into my parents' room and I'm like, guys, Sarah's kidnapped, and I'm like crying already. And the first thing my mom does is hop out of bed and goes, Sarah snuck out. And I was like no part of me thought that. I was like, no, Mom, like she's kidnapped. You don't understand. The curtain was like swinging in the dark. So I start sitting on the couch while my parents are like calling her and going outside to see where she's at. And I'm like crying, but at this point I'm like, maybe I did accidentally snitch. So my sister gets home and she's like explaining her side of the story to my parents and why she had to do what she did. And I'm just sitting there like, So at this point, she's obviously a little sad because she got in trouble. I would have gotten in trouble too. And I'm just like, I'm going to go in her room and comfort her. And don't think I'm a snake because I didn't know. Not my stupid self saying to her, I wouldn't have told on you. I just thought you got kidnapped. She goes, you told? Yeah, that was me. Moral of the story, if you ever think you're not a cool person, at least you're not me.